Oh, we're back. Glorious. I'm back in the state of Michigan now. Got
Wow.
back late last night. Driving to Florida sucks.
Oh,
It's
you
the worst.
drove? That's the most
Yeah,
Midwestern thing ever.
Jerry, I've driven to Florida probably 20 times in my life.
Dude, that's amazing.
That's what you
I've
do.
done it once from Illinois.
That's
Uh,
what
when I was
that's
a
what we
kid.
do where I'm from.
Yeah, that's the most Midwestern thing is calculating your vacation in hours.
I
Yeah,
think
it's a 16-hour drive. That's fine.
Yeah.
I think it was 19 hours from where we were. Um, I think I've flown to Florida like 3 times in my entire life, and I've gone
Dude,
to spring break probably. How old am I? 26. I've gone to spring break 20 times probably.
so I would, when I first started going to Florida, I would drive there with my grandparents.
Yes, of
And then one of
course.
the last times I went, I flew. And
Yes,
the difference,
so
like,
much
is
difference.
like when you fly and it's like you leave at like 1 o'clock and you're there at 3. And
Yes,
it's
no,
like, oh, I can just enjoy my day now instead of
no.
like
I do
being
it from
showing
St.
up.
Louis to Chicago sometimes.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
often,
Yeah.
but
Dude,
because the flight can be so cheap and it's like a
Yeah.
45-minute flight. Time wise, it might be like 2 hours. Let's say get to the airport, be there early because you're not ever, come on, we're all Midwesterners. You're not showing up to
Yeah.
the airport late. Like,
no.
got to
No.
make sure the gate exists, then get
Yeah.
food, then go back
Yeah.
to the gate, all those
Make sure
things.
it's still there.
Yes, exactly. In case you moved on me, and all those things. But it's like a 45-minute flight. And even that is like can be more cost effective than like
Yeah.
driving the 4 hours time wise and then getting gas there and back.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't know. I remember one year we went to Florida for spring break. We flew down and drove back,
That's
and I was like,
Oh,
"This
infuriating.
it's
two
the
different
drive.
worlds.
The drive down is not the hard part; it's the drive back.
The
Because
drive back is terrible.
yeah, because the drive down, you're excited. You're like, oh,
Yep.
okay, you're
Well, and
floating.
then when you're driving to Florida, it's like, oh, all the cold, crappy weather. Then it's
Yes,
like, oh, the warm weather. When you
as you
drive
get
back, you hit like Kentucky and like southern Indiana.
it's
You're like,
terrible.
it's 40 degrees outside right
Yeah,
now.
no, it was terrible. We left. So my sister's still down there. She's staying with one of her college roommates for another week. So they're like, oh, she gets to stay, and then she's flying back. I'm like, you motherfucker.
Wow, dude.
And so she's still down there for another week. So we left, started Friday night, stayed the night in Georgia Friday, and then finished yesterday. And I'm like, this is awful. I'm like,
Oh,
I can.
and then especially when you're driving deep into Florida, dude, Florida alone can be like
Mhm.
5, 6, 7 hours, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the worst state I think to drive in is it's without a doubt Indiana because you're so close to home, but you have
Yeah,
to drive up the entire length
yeah.
of Indiana.
Dude,
It's
oh my
terrible.
god, middle of the country roads. I will tell you the worst state to drive through. This is not even me being a Missouri fan. Is Kansas.
I knew it.
Because
Indiana's pretty bad, Jerry.
okay, well, okay.
Indiana's
I'm gonna tell you this
terrible.
right now. The drive from Chicago to either St. Louis or Columbia is pitiful. The only good part of it is Lake Springfield, because it's water. Like that's the whole thing. It's not even that it's a cool lake; it's just water. Because and like the drive from Indiana, because I haven't gone. I've maybe done it once from like South Bend to Louisville, a while
That's
back,
not bad. It's like
and it's
5
not
hours.
terrible, but like it's boring. I will be the first to tell you it is
Terrible.
boring.
It's
I
so
hate
I
boring.
think the road conditions worse than like the actual drive in terms of like what you're driving on is worse. It is somehow still a little bit more scenic. But yeah, this is like comparing apples to oranges a little bit. Kansas though is the worst, and I'll explain why. Because at least like with Illinois and Indiana, you hit some farmland here and there, and you might get a little curvature. Like you're not going to hit a lot of hills, but you hit like a little bit of a hill. You'll get some turns. Kansas, it's just straight. It's just straight nothing. Maybe some like long grass. It is terrible, but it is fun, Caleb. You're telling me about your drives to Florida. You drive right through the heart of SEC country,
I did.
and then you're going to come
did.
on here to start this podcast with your title screen being that the SEC no longer runs football.
That's a fact. Jerry.
So this is our segue to start talking about some of those big boy games
There's
because you might have been in SEC country, but you're trying to tell me it doesn't mean more anymore. You got to explain.
Oh.
Well, it's not that it doesn't mean more. It's everybody's paying everybody now. I mean, that's a fact. Indiana's going out today in the transfer portal and getting everybody and anybody. I mean, this is just college football has changed. The landscape is different. It is, the go dogs chants. We're not humming in Georgia. There's, a lot of people excited for the game. Wasn't. I mean, I did go to one of the SEC games in the Michigan-Texas game, and Texas ended up beating Michigan. But yeah, other than that, I mean, the SEC is not. I mean, they had a SEC on SEC hate crime, which we'll talk about later. But they've not been great so far in this playoff or anything. And it is funny, there Greg Sankey comes on and says we need 7 spots in the playoff. I don't think I want to have 7 SEC teams. It's just been one of those years. I'll get you some comments. Welcome back. Hope everybody had good holidays. Jerry liking the cut. Jerry,
dude, I've had this cut for weeks. This is how it tells you how I never wear. I always wear hats on the show. I got this cut at the beginning of December. That's not a diss to anybody for not noticing this. I have had a haircut.
It looks like a very fresh cut, though.
No, I got that shit cut short. Sorry, I know we're a children's program. I get my hair cut like 2 to 3 times a year. Yeah. So I grow it out. I look like a frat boy for a bit. At a certain point, I go, this is a little too much work. And I cut it real short like this. So yeah, we're in that phase now where it's like slowly growing back. And since I am getting older and my job is stressful, the hair doesn't grow back faster. So yeah, maybe I'll have to go down like 2 cuts a year with the lack of speed, which is not a problem. It saves me some money.
You could be like me. I think I get like 4 cuts a year and call it a day.
I love it. This is the most dude battle ever. Who can get their hair cut the least and still look presentable, brother?
I mean, I don't look presentable. I just refuse to get my hair cut all the time because it's a process. When I get my hair cut, it's a little different. It's not just going in for a cut. Jonathan says, I want my knowledge for picking them week 0. I think he's talking about Miami. We'd have to check out some receipts on that. Luke says, Caleb, I'm sorry you had to witness a week Martin. It actually was a very entertaining game until the fourth quarter, I will say. Like, Bryce Underwood played good until the fourth quarter, and they looked terrible. Arch looked like the number 1 overall pick in the draft. He's coming back to school, but he looked good. I mean, he did a read option fake pass and ran it for like 50 yards. And I'm like, this guy can fly.
Start the hype train. Start it up.
Look, it was a fun game to watch. Sark had some questionable non-called timeouts, and time management was terrible in that game. It was like one time the clock was all the way down to 0, and he's just still in his kneeling position, not even worried about the timeout. It was a critical time in the game. Like, you need to call timeout. Michigan will be fine. Someone needs to work with Bryce Underwood. His mechanics are terrible. Sat around a bunch of Michigan fans. They all hate him. They want him gone. $12 million. They're like, you can take that back. So I don't know. We'll see. But, I mean, it was a fun atmosphere to watch. It was fun to watch Texas. Got to see Bevo. Got to see Bevo's trailer. That was funny. And they showed him on the Jumbotron, and every Texas fan went berserk like they'd never seen a cow before in their life.
Just means more, man.
And I'm just like, it was a fun atmosphere. It was cool. But yeah, Michigan did not look good, but they have they're going into a new regime moving forward, and we'll see how that goes. Now we go to a team in the Big Ten who did win this weekend. That would be the Oregon Ducks. They played the Texas Tech Red Raiders, and it wasn't even a ball game. I mean, this was an embarrassment for Texas Tech. They talked a lot of crap about Notre Dame, and so I thought it was funny that they ended up losing this way. Oregon is just, with Dan Lanning, they're different than the Kirby, not the Kirby Smart. They're different than the Chip Kelly days or even the Mario Cristobal days. Like, there's just a certain thing about Oregon, and they didn't play great, but it's just the physicality that they have, their attention to defense. It feels like an SEC team playing up in Oregon, which you would never think that. So, yeah, I mean, it was just one of those games that Texas Tech had this high-scoring offense, didn't look great, and Oregon just took advantage of it and was able to get it done.
Dude, this was my favorite version of shooting yourself in the foot, because this game was close, and I want to be clear here. This is one of those games where 6 felt like 12, 12 feels like 24, right? So, like, points were at an absolute premium. So 4 turnovers from Bear Morton, or 4 turnovers, I think, was from Texas Tech, and 3 of them were Bear Morton. One was the running back. Really not helpful, because Oregon looked good when Texas Tech defense showed up. But if you keep giving them spots, and you keep giving them worse spots to try to defend and stop scoring, like, it was the 1 turnover. It's like, oh yeah, here's Oregon with like almost at the goal line already. It's like, well, yeah, trying to stop that at a certain point, it's going to be you just run out of gas. And there was a point in that game, I think it was 16. Now there's something where Texas Tech could come back, and they make this drive down the field, and then Bear just does a terrible pick. And it was one of those, he just flowed the ball up, and when that ball was coming down, there was 2 Oregon defenders, 1 Texas Tech Red Raider. I'm like, you don't like that ratio. That's not good. But that was kind of, I think, that play kind of really summarized the game, which was like, Texas Tech did good things. Their defense was, I think, as advertised. Because again, this was 23 points. It could have been 40. Like that front seven was legit. The defense really did hold back. But if you keep giving Oregon better and better field position, you're going to break. And that was kind of a prime example of this. Our biggest question mark about Texas Tech was the offense. And the offense didn't show up. Is this a loss of a season? I don't know. Caleb's going to give you an update of the game. He's ahead of me.
Watch it, Jerry.
But, do I think this is a failure of Texas Tech season? Absolutely not. The goal here was to win a conference championship, something Texas Tech had not done since I think the 1960s, or if not the 1950s. So to come out here and do that, and again, I think they proved their merit. They just showed that the thing they didn't spend on, quarterback and a lot of the offense, wasn't there. And that's, again, when you turn the ball over 4 times, a lot of things aren't going to go your way, especially against a very good Oregon team, which, to your point, Caleb, does look a bit different, does feel a bit different.
No. Yeah, I think, too, it's like we kind of owe JMU an apology, right? I was one of those people. I was like, this is kind of ridiculous, JMU, da-da-da-da. I mean, they perform much better than Texas Tech against Oregon. So I guess that's a place where we, I'm man enough to say I'm wrong when I was wrong. Texas Tech kind of proved that, some of these smaller schools do deserve a chance because they can perform much better than you can against these powerhouse schools. But yeah, we talked about leading up to this game that Texas Tech has a great defense. They just have to, be careful of making a bunch of mistakes on the offense. And they were not very careful about it. Like Jerry said, 4 turnovers from the offense. So you can't win a game like that against Oregon. If you're going to turn the ball over 4 times, they're going to make you pay. It doesn't matter how good your defense is. And I would say Texas Tech has one of the best, if not the best, defense in the country. But it doesn't matter. When your offense can't get anything going and they're turning the ball over 4 times, it's just a recipe for disaster. So Oregon looks very good. Oregon looks good. I like the point that you brought up, Caleb. It's almost, they almost have like an SEC field.
Yes.
I agree with that. It feels like, more than just a Big Ten, athletic, agile team. They're very physical and they can really handle teams in the trenches.
Well, and it also comes down to quarterback play too, right? Like one side had Dante Moore, the other side had Morton, who showed that he probably played his last game of football ever. And Dante Moore's really good at what he can do. And so, I think that goes into it. And you look at the last final 4 teams remaining, we probably arguably have the 4 best quarterbacks out of the teams in the playoffs still left. Julian Sand, you could argue it, but the way he played wasn't great. And with Carson Beck's experience, I think you would take that over Julian Sand. So, you look at it and you move it forward and you say, okay, based off quarterbacks, this was one of those games that it came down to exactly that. One quarterback made the mistakes and the other didn't. And Oregon's now moving on and kind of getting a redemption based off of, what they did last year.
Yeah.
In the playoff by, winning the Big Ten in the first year in the Big Ten, going to the Rose Bowl, and then getting absolutely blanked by Ohio State. This year, they start out with JMU, get the win. Now, then they play Texas Tech in Miami, a long flight for them. I kind of had maybe some concerns about it, like, oh, could it be? Didn't really matter in the end of it. And now they're in the Final Four, making a little run, little redemption based off of what happened to them last year. Now moving on to the Rose Bowl, which this was, I think, the craziest game. I will probably say I've probably witnessed in my life just based off of who it was against, because you had Indiana versus Alabama, and if I told you the score is 38-3, you'd probably say Alabama won that game. But it's this different time now. Indiana was the more physical team, which going in, I think we all thought that, but they proved it. They were able to move Alabama on the line of scrimmage on both sides. They played sound, and they don't make a lot of mistakes. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Is Alabama took advantage of Oklahoma making mistakes last week. This time they play a team in Indiana that does not make mistakes. Fernando Mendoza is easily going to be the number 1 pick in the draft, I would say. He's clean. He makes it look very easy in situations when it probably shouldn't. Some of those throws, you're like, oh, he's going to get sacked. Nope. Throws it 25 yards on the money, caught, plays good. Kurt Cignetti, is just a hell of a coach and can take what they have there in Indiana. It was just funny too, because I was like, okay, early on it's a close game. You're okay, trying to fill each other out. And then Indiana just started running the ball on him. You're like, whoa, this is not what you had expected. And Indiana, out of all the teams, you look at them, you go, they easily have the chance to win the national title out of the 4 teams remaining, just based off of the way they played against Alabama. And for Alabama, it's like, all right, what do you do? Because now you have, yeah, you make it to the playoff, yeah, you win a playoff game, but you have a problem with physicality and how teams are going to view you. I think is the biggest thing moving forward in the SEC, where we say it's physical conference, it's the best football. This team from Indiana in the Big Ten just came out of nowhere and just whooped you.
Well, like we all said before this, and I think this is the point we all made, it was going to surprise a lot of folks when Indiana came out and was just more physical than Alabama. That's been the case all year. That's how this team has played. To quote Richard Johnson, he's a CBS reporter, someone I listened to, in a world where college football feels like there's a lot of fast food, quick stuff, this and that, Indiana's like meat and potatoes. They're very simple. They're very pure. They play the game. They play so fundamentally strong. And that's what makes them so tough. And I think the thing that's confusing a lot of folks, one, this is a coming out game. Like, okay, the three of us, and I think the people who listen to us, we've been saying Indiana's good. And like, not just, oh, they're good, they're fun. Like, no, this is a good football team. All right. But this was the week, if you want to make that, argument of like, oh, prestige, this and that it got shattered. Because there are people coming into this game that were just like, it's Alabama. They'll figure it out. No. Like this Bama team, we told you they couldn't stop the run. We told you this Bama team couldn't run the ball. And Indiana stopped both those things and then started running the ball. The two things we knew Bama could not do. But for a lot of people, they're like, oh, this team is legit. This is the stuff they could do. And the thing I think about, especially with Indiana, is we have all these talent services and talent rankings and all this. If you look at Indiana, it's like, oh, there's 72 in the country or whatever. I think it's on like 24/7 Sports, one of these. And what Kurt Cignetti's done, I think, a fantastic job of doing is he's not taking maybe the most talented guys ever. Mendoza's a very good quarterback. You can argue he's the best in this draft class. I'm not sure he is. You could argue to be Dante Moore, and I think that's a fair argument. But he knows exactly who to get the ball. Surratt's a fantastic receiver. Probably not the best in college football, but very good. Their tight end, very good. Pat Coogan, very good. He's done a good job of getting these really good players that have experience. And that's something you can't put on the 3 or 4 star label, right? So when he's plucking kids and he's plucking these players, he's got guys that, one, a lot of them came from James Madison, that were rated, 3 stars at max in the portal, but know their system, know exactly what they're doing, and then they have 3 to 4 years of college football experience. So he's really done a great job of constructing a strong roster and then just being so sound. And this is a team that I think is going to confuse a lot of folks for the next 2 weeks about how they win, because everybody on their team, nobody's like that super duper star. You don't have that guy where you're like, oh man, like Fernando Moses is really good, but he's not like the eye-catching, fantastic football player. When you watch him play, you go, wow, he's good. Hemby, their running back, good running back. He doesn't catch your eye, but then he just gains 15 yards because he broke a tackle or two, and also the offensive line blocks really well. And that's the thing. They're a really well-constructed team, the best constructed team in my mind in the country, and each week they keep going out and showing that. It's really fair to call this team the favorite to win the playoff. I understand it's weird, but look what they just did to the team that everyone thought, oh, yeah, it's still Bama. It's Bama this, Bama that. And as much as, yes, the SEC guy, sure, those concerns were there. Indiana took advantage of them because they're the better football team. They played like it. They showed it. Didn't matter if it was rain or shine in Pasadena or Bloomington. This team's come out to play every week, and they continue to do so.
Yeah, I think, too, I mean, I say this after I'm pretty sure I went 0-4 this past week on my picks. But I say this, that, like, Indiana, this game against Alabama has completely changed, how I view the rest of the playoffs going forward. And kind of what you just said, Jerry, that this is kind of the favorite now. I would agree. I think the way there's not very many teams in the country, maybe 1 or 2, that could do what Indiana did to Alabama. Not just beat Alabama, but kind of embarrass them. I think this was a really good – I really like Fernando Mendoza. He is a very calculated gunslinger, I would say. He's not afraid to take the big shot, but when he does take the big shot, it usually works out. I think back to that Ohio State first down to kind of seal the game. I think about multiple touchdowns in this game that put him up. So I was super impressed with Fernando Mendoza, but like you guys said, I really, really, really like this Indiana team. But I kind of have a question for you guys. Where does this put the temperature of Kalen DeBoer's seat? Is it like a lukewarm?
Kalen DeBoer's seat's always hot. It's Alabama.
Yeah.
And again, one thing Kalen DeBoer did, and you have to have some gall to do this, and I don't know, where this comes out of exactly. He's the guy that took over after Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Like, again, if I were to paint you the picture of this was a team that missed the playoffs last year, then this year won a playoff game and was lost to the number one team in the country, I give you that blank resume. You're going to go, that's improvement. That's a better team. That guy should be good. But it's Alabama.
Yeah.
His seat's always perpetually hot. It's going to be perpetually hot. He's in the same class like a Ryan Day, right? And Ryan Day's seat got like a wee bit cooler, but it was like 100 degrees, and then it went to like 95 when he won the national title. And now it's back to like 98, right? Like this is how this always kind of rocks with them. Like, yeah, but again, especially post Saban, and the fact that Alabama does not look like those Saban-Bama teams, which is going to take some time to, I would say, like rinse. But Kalen DeBoer is an offensive-led head coach, right? Like, whatever you remember him from Washington and all these other places, he was an offensive guy, right? He's the guy, ironically, that coached that 8-win Indiana team with Michael Penix Jr., right? He was the offensive coordinator for that team. That's the type of stuff he runs and he wants to play. Not to say that Nick Saban and the folks left him with terrible talent. Obviously not. But it's going to take a little while for him to make it look how he wants. I don't know if Bama fans are going to like how it looks or if it works out. So it's always hot. And I think this does not help. But more than I think the temperature of his seat, I think a lot of people realized, oh, this team is good in Indiana. And I think that's I think this is more of a coming out party than a Kalen DeBoer possibly, back on the hot seat game. But if they do another week one like they did at Florida State, ask me that question again, because I think that will absolutely look totally different if that's the case.
Well, I think the other thing too is Alabama fans needs to realize, like, you're going to regress back to the mean. Like, you had the greatest ever do it, and the guy that when nobody else was consistent, they were going to be. You're always going to be consistent. You're always going to win 10 games. That type of thing. And Nick Saban was also a guy in the SEC that got a lot of other SEC coaches fired. Based off of his performance as a coach and kind of what these other teams around him would do. And so I think that's going to be the biggest thing and the hardest pill to swallow is, like, yes, you are still Alabama, but kind of what were you before Nick Saban got there is you were, a historic program that probably an average of 9 wins a year program, 10 every once in a while. They had coaches win national titles, that type of thing. So 6 national titles and going to the championship every year is not probably what's going to happen anymore. And for any coach that'd be at any school would be crazy to do. So I think that's the biggest thing. I don't think his seat's hot. I think that it's one of those where it's like, we could always have this, or we always want this. It's what, the grass is always greener, right? Kalen DeBoer's a really good coach. Everywhere he's gone, he's won. And so I think, from that standpoint, it's going to be one of those things where he's a good coach. It's just going to be, does the school embraces him, but do the fans embrace him enough to give him, time to do it? But I will say, though, too, Indiana, the way they played, would be anybody like that, I believe, just that day. And you had it also looked like the fans were like a 70-30 split for Indiana fans over Alabama fans in the Rose Bowl. So it's just, you just have all these things, and he had a lot going on where it was like, he's going to leave for Michigan, and then he ends up beating Oklahoma, and that kind of fades out. And so I would say it's like lukewarm, just based off of, like Jerry said, is you're replacing Nick Saban. But I would say the other thing too is, if I'm Nick Saban, I get he still gets paid by Alabama and he still has, an office there. But to pick Alabama in every game all the time, I think also hurts Kalen DeBoer, because I think it gets Alabama fans like, oh, we're good. Nick Saban says that we could beat Indiana and we should beat Indiana. And I think that hurts him a little bit. But I don't know. That's just my thought process on that. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. Did the Bears end up losing, Jerry?
You're ahead of me, so my guess is yes, if you're asking.
Well, I just see them on the field, so they ended up losing. Bears lost by a field goal to the Lions. Came back, fought hard, but, it is what it is. But no, so I would say lukewarm on Kalen DeBoer, and it's always going to be like that.
Well, don't worry. The Eagles lost too.
They did?
Well, I think Tanner McKee just threw an interception with a minute left.
Well, that gives us 2 seeds, so I guess nothing It's a wash on the
Who's gonna
weekend.
turn this
So yeah,
up?
I just think when you look at Kalen DeBoer, it's just you're the guy that is replacing Nick Saban, and he should have known that when he took the job. So that will be very interesting. But I would say lukewarm.
Yeah, it's again, it's Bama post Saban. It's a weird world, but no, the coming out party for I think a lot of folks to realize that yeah, Indiana's legit. They're the number one seed. They've played like it all year. They've won the close games and they've beat the piss out of teams they're supposed to. And today in that game, the Rose Bowl, no exception.
Well, and I guess to not like talk about this for too long, but like, what would you guys say would be like, this is what they have to achieve next year for their season next year to be like a clear improvement or something that keeps Kalen, I guess the minimum of that. Is it win a national championship? Is it get to the third round or the semifinals?
No, I would just say make the playoffs because
Okay.
I would say based off of like the new age of college football, which would be the new 12-team playoff, Kirby's not gotten past the second round. So, like when you compare him to Kirby, I get Kirby has 2 national titles, but in the new age of the 12-team playoff, it's super hard to win these games, and Kirby's not been able to do it. So Kalen DeBoer's won a game. So I think just make the playoffs. Man.
Yeah.
Again, you have to consistently. There's some schools where I view if a 12-team or even in a 16-team playoff, you should always make the playoff. Alabama being one of those, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, probably Miami now. Like you should always make the playoff in a 16-team playoff without a doubt. So he's at that school where you have to make the playoff in 12 or 16 team. So make the playoff, and I think he'll be fine.
That's why this stuff's fun, man. That's why this stuff's fun. I forget which game we're going to next, but I know this is where we get to the good ones. I think we go to Miami, right? We go to the Cotton Bowl.
We're going to the Cotton Bowl here, where I will say it. I picked Miami for this game. This was going to be like the Patriots versus the Giants in the Super Bowl. Pretty much turned out that way. But I will say I think the more surprising thing in this game for me was the last drive from Miami, where they were able to just run the ball at will, and they did it against A&M as well on their last drive to take the lead in that game as well. They just take your soul, man, and it's what Mario Cristobal wants to build the team off of, build the program around. It's old school Miami in like the toughness, maybe not the talent wise, just based off of where we're at now. And the other thing too is, as long as Carson Beck doesn't mess up, this Miami team could legitimately win the whole thing.
I mean, when early in the year when Miami was like stomping out teams and just looked like a better football team than everybody, it was the line play, both defensively and offensively. Ruben Bain, I've never seen a guy raise his draft stock so quickly than Ruben Bain. Not that Ruben Bain was like a 5th rounder, that's now a 1st rounder, and there's probably better examples of this if you really want to think about it.
It's very similar to Abdul Carter last year in the playoffs.
It really feels that way, right? Like he is just so elite. And yeah, we're getting to that point in the playoff, and we were really this week where every team has talent, right? And I think when Caleb made that pick, I go, I like that pick because there's a chance that Miami wins this whole damn thing. And it's by doing exactly what they did. This is a very talented team. Their defense is just so nasty. And again, this is a Miami team that was really good at making mistakes and dumb mistakes, but they got it out in like October. And now they come into these 2 games against A&M and Miami. And A&M, the only mistake they made was kicking the ball, right? Like you didn't have a lot of those dumb procedural penalties. You didn't have Mario Cristobal screw up the clock, which he's done multiple times before, or anything else in between. In return, Ohio State made the mistakes. The big one being the pick 6, right? You want to flip a game on your head. This is a 10-point game. Give 7 points away. Here we are. That's a team that can hang with you. And it's really funny because I don't think we talked about it with Indiana, is that now we're starting to get some data about what this bye looks like for a lot of teams. We now have a second year of this, and now Indiana is the only team, and did so emphatically, to win off of the bye. Will it matter? Probably not, because we're going to go to like 16 teams. It's going to change all the data sets, and you're not going to be able to take anything away from it. This stupid sport sometimes. But this felt like one of those moments where Miami got the right tune-up and then came in and got to change. Like they were just that physical. This has always been a physical team. It was just, can you not make those dumb mistakes? Carson Beck has not done that yet. And that's kind of the thing I keep holding my head on is if if Miami keeps playing physical like Indiana, especially on the lines, they could beat up, it feels like, anybody. And if their defense keeps playing at this level, That's tough. This Ohio State team has those weapons, and I know they have not been fantastic all year. Like there have been ups and downs. You got the Jeremiah Smith game you wanted, right?
Yeah.
You got everything you wanted from a guy who right now could start on multiple NFL rosters, and it didn't matter. That's a statement from Miami about how good this defense is to still let up the number one guy score. It kind of felt like in basketball where you're like, we'll let Luka score 50. Nobody else does anything. And that's a testament, one, to how good Jeremiah Smith is, and it feels like they're slowly wasting his time. But two, how good just in general Miami's defense has been. This is a really solid unit, but can they stay away from mistakes for 2 more games? That's really the multi-million-dollar question facing Carson Beck in that offense.
Yeah, I agree. I think too. I like Caleb, like how you brought up that final drive, the way they were just able to run the ball, kill a bunch of clock, but get downfield. That's something that is very, very impressive, and that formula, if it works, can beat any team in the country because if you can make your way downfield while also running the clock and score and end up scoring, dude, like there's nothing that could stop you. It was very impressive. Caleb, I know you picked them to win, but going into halftime, I was almost not even surprised anymore when Miami started to really pull away because I was like, dude, this team just looks amazing right now. But they have a tough loss to Louisville
And SMU, yeah.
and SMU, so it's like they are definitely beatable. But they've almost perfected the way they play right now. So this is a really tough team to play, and I know we're about to get to the next game, but all 4 of these teams to me are very interesting. They all kind of have their own attitude and persona on how they play the game, and I'm very excited to see exactly how those match up, which we'll talk more about in a second. So we could talk about the next one if you'd like.
Yeah, it was just crazy to me though to watch it, to pick it, to see it happen kind of the way I thought it would happen.
You manifested it.
I did. I felt it, and Ohio State, after winning the national championship last year, does not make it past their bye week round. And now we are moving on to, I would say, I'll start with my NFL comparison for Trinidad Chambliss, and you guys can tell me what I think. And this is a younger version of this guy when he was like at the top level. But watching him in college, very similar to this guy when I watched back in the day. He reminds me of Russell Wilson. In the way
he becomes that corny man. Oh no!
I don't hope he's that. I don't think he's Jerry. He's
dangerous.
He's homegrown from the great state of Michigan, the greatest state of the United States. So he's not going to be a weirdo. That's a fact. I don't know. It's just the way he kind of plays and the way like he rolls out and throws it is very similar to like what Russell Wilson did at Wisconsin to me. And he is just a competitor, dude. Like everything is stacked up against this Ole Miss team based off of like what we look at on the outside. It's like you lose your head coach, you have all this drama surrounding you. They do not make this run, in my opinion, if Lane Kiffin's still their coach. It's just the way they've kind of rallied around, like F that guy, and we don't need him, and everybody thinks that like he's the reason that Ole Miss is what it is, and partially, yes, that is true. But for this team and Pete Golden, it's like, look, like we still have a good team. We lost 1 game in the SEC, 1 game total out of the whole year. We had a lead in that game, and then they get to play that team again in the Sugar Bowl, and they came out, and I don't know. Georgia to me is I thought they could win it all. I thought they were good. I thought when no one's talking about them, it's good. They're very stagnant. I didn't know if Kirby could get out coached 2 years in a row in a Sugar Bowl, and he did. Trying to run the same play that Notre Dame ran against them with running the punt team out and then running the offense out and snapping that. It was just dysfunctional. And look, credit to Ole Miss. They stayed in it, played their game. Their kicker is nuts. He'll probably be drafted in like the 3rd round in the NFL. And I don't know, Charlie Weiss Jr. too, like credit, because I think when you think of Lane Kiffin, you think of him as the offense, and he is now pulling double duty and doing a very good job. And Trinidad is just I cannot understand. It's just crazy for my head to wrap. He was at Ferris State University, and now he is playing in the SEC at Ole Miss in the college football playoff at the highest level of college football, and he is in the Final Four and just beat Georgia, who we look at as like one of the best programs in the world.
Upsets are fun, aren't they?
It's crazy.
Aren't they fun? We talk about, I can't have upsets, this and that. Aren't these kind of fun? I want to do the non-Lane Kiffin of this, and we could probably come back to the Lane Kiffin of it all because I feel like that's like two separate worlds, right? The non-Lane Kiffin of this is shout out Pete Golding. I have no clue what past this year looks like for Ole Miss. I don't think anyone really does. Right now is so tumultuous with of course, this team is going on an historic run, especially within school standards, and they're worried about if the assistant coaches will be back next week. Crazy. We could go all day about this. You walk into this this was, again, the thing about Pete Golding that's so fascinating is he was one of those Saban defensive coordinators that a lot of Alabama fans, if you talk to them about him, they didn't like him. And he kind of got caught in a weird era. This is when the sports really starts changing from like the defensive-led team, think of those early Saban teams like that, to more offensively led, right, within the whole sport, not just Alabama. And Pete Golding got caught right in the middle, so his defenses don't look that good. And everyone's like, this and that. Don't look up his mugshot and stuff like that. But to turn around and not just rally cry, but this is a good football team and to still keep that continuity. And mind you, they made some mistakes here. I think at the end of the first half, isn't it Joe Judge is on that sideline?
Yeah, Joe Judge is like the head of the offense. He's not the offense coordinator, but he's like the head. Like he controls the offense. Which
they darn goof on the field goal at halftime, which really felt like a big moment. That felt like, and one of the questions I think we had is like, with all this turmoil and not having your main head calling, play caller, stuff like this, do you have a stupid mistake like that in you? And how does it affect the game? And that felt almost not like a death blow, but really felt like a punch in the gut to watch a team be unorganized in the biggest moments when you need this. There's that big missed face mask against for Ole Miss against Georgia that just feels completely out of place. With all that in mind, this Ole Miss team just battled back and continued. In some ways, what's also weird to me is watching Kirby Smart get outcoached on simple things, timeout usage. That third down play is just mind-boggling. The fact you stop the clock, then go for the field goal and tie. It's a 34-34 game. Let's be adults in the room here. Nobody's stopping nobody. So you expect your defense now to buck up?
Yeah.
There's got to be a decision there. You've got to have better court. And for a guy who is fantastic, I'm not trying to get Kirby Smart in the hot seat or act like he's not this. He's won 2 titles at a place that was historically very good and then would not finish the title, right? He's proven his merits. But to have a real back and forth battle is a both credit to Pete Golding and a very frustrating thing for Georgia fans to see Kirby Smart, the guy who's been anointed as the next one, struggle and do stupid things like that. So just shout out to them for really pulling through. This is, again, a talented team that continues to play like such. And the questions and concerns of what does it look like without them having the head coach that felt like the center of the program, right? That was kind of the thing about this Ole Miss team, is that everything ran through Lane Kiffin. There's a damn documentary about Lane Kiffin that was made that was put out in the middle of the season about him, right? In the midst of this magical season. And still 2 games later, honest to God, I don't think Lane Kiffin thought this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why
I'm not let Trevor make a point before we turn this into the Lane Kiffin conversation. That's what's been so crazy about this. Every weird thing that's been stacked against this Ole Miss team, they continue to show out. And to beat the team that you lost to, yes, you lost away from home, but to do that with all those little stupid mistakes and little things like that to still come through just shows grit and grime. And a lot of that is Trinidad Chambliss figuring it out and making some insane plays. He's fun. Shout out Trinidad, and shout out Trinidad and Tobago, the flag that's getting a lot of orders in Mississippi, which, again, be careful with what flags you fly out in Mississippi.
I'll just say it's super admirable what Ole Miss has been able to do, what Pete Golding has been able to do. I kind of do agree with you, Caleb, that I don't know, maybe not that this wouldn't have happened, but this definitely has lit a fire under there, that has made this a very easy team to get behind and cheer for. And what they're doing right now is just it's almost like movie worthy. But there's a lot of that, I would say, in this playoff, where it's almost like there's so many great stories and great storylines coming into these games. But you guys may commence the Lane Kiffin talk now.
Well, I will say one thing too first. So
Never
when
mind.
they
No,
played Georgia, they were up 9 going into the fourth quarter. This time they were down 9 against Georgia going into the fourth quarter, and they ended up winning. Georgia beat them the first time. They ended up coming back and winning, so that was big too. Jerry, you can go with your Lane.
So the Lane Kiffin part of this, I think, is obviously fascinating, but I wanted to separate the two to give credit to the Rebels for doing what they're doing. My question to you guys is, I feel like with each one of these wins, the perception around Lane Kiffin changes. I thought the big hiring swinging point to LSU was, this is the best ball coach. Look at the offenses he creates and the talent he finds. Look at how he's getting Trinidad to go. He found Keywan Lacey. Look at the offense, right? Remember, you guys might remember when he had Matt Corral and he throws the clipboard like 20 yards in the air because he's supposed to be this great play caller, offensive mind. Ole Miss has still put up 40 in their last 2 games, right? And that includes, I get it, this Georgia defense was not like the Georgia defenses we think of, but it's not that bad, right? Like, this is still a solid team and was playing some of their best ball before that bye, right? To drop 40 and all this looks like that. How does this reflect on him? Because I think you could sell it as the play caller part, which I thought was a big reason of the hiring, doesn't look as impressive. But in return, the talent acquisition continues to shine. So it's like I'm kind of caught in this conundrum of, what does this mean for the guy who walked away? Because this is like, yes, he makes money from it. It's its own level of stupid. We don't have time to talk about it, right? But like, perception-wise, I feel like it's each one of these games with Ole Miss, it dramatically shifts about how we think about Lane Kiffin. Because, yeah, Charlie Weis Jr. is a great offensive mind as well, right? So maybe it's not just Lane's the play caller of all play callers. It might just be he's the guy who can get great talent and just is okay at ball. And I don't know if that means anything. I don't know if I'm overthinking it. But I find this fascinating because this Ole Miss team continues to prove maybe it wasn't him doing all that legwork on that. And that was something that everybody talked about Lane Kiffin. Offensive genius, offensive guru, this and that. Again, 39 and I think 45 last 2 games without him there.
Yeah, I mean, so I would think the biggest thing to that is it raises the value of Charlie Weis Jr. And there was a report now today that NFL teams are looking at him as offense coordinator. I don't think before this they're looking at him. They're thinking, like a lot of people thought. I even thought too. It's like, yeah, Lane pretty much it's like with Ryan Day and Brian Hartline at Ohio State. It's like, yeah, they're the offensive coordinator, but like at the end of the day, it's Ryan Day and it's Lane Kiffin who like make the decisions, and they have the final say when it comes to the offense. Charlie Weis Jr.'s come out there and said, look, I'm just as good. It's a system. It's a Briles system, basically, is what it is. It's the old school Briles system and mixed with what I would say Lane did at USC with, the Reggie Bush, the power eye. So you mix the running game with the Briles system. He kind of did that at FAU and kind of reinvented it. Charlie Weis Jr. was part of that. So you have all of that. So it's a system. But yeah, to Jerry's point where it's like, look, talent acquisition, him and I would say Kurt Cignetti up there, like the eye for talent, being able to figure it out, great. But yeah, it does hurt him a little bit. And, if he thought they could go on a run like this, he'd still be the head coach. There's no doubt in my mind. Beating Tulane, I think everybody was like, yes, they're going to beat Tulane. To beat Georgia, I think a lot of people thought that they'd probably get blown out. And Georgia would be like, all right, this is Georgia, move on. Like Ole Miss without Lane Kiffin, like you had a great win over Tulane. Pete Golding, thank you. Like, we'll figure it out. Now it's like, whoa, wait a minute. And if you're Ole Miss now, you're like, we really don't need that guy. We like the guy that we have. But no, I do. That is an interesting point, Jerry, where it's like it does kind of tint the armor a little bit of Lane Kiffin because, like I said, if he's still the coach, I do not believe that they beat Georgia again and continue on this run and kind of move it. So it is very interesting. John has a very interesting point too. He says they're going to end up like the 89 Michigan basketball team, which people don't know. Steve Fisher came in, I think towards the end of the year. They made the tournament and ended up winning the whole thing with not a ragtag team, but not what Steve Fisher had the years later. It can happen. You get on these magical runs, you change something, you get the camaraderie, you have a quarterback like Trinidad Chambliss who goes out there and just plays. He knows the system too. I think that's the other thing too, is as a transfer coming from D2 to D1, being able to run that system. It's a high octane system. It's very fast paced. being able to do it, is very good. So, but no, Jerry, that's a great point. I didn't think about that of like,
Well,
how much does it hurt Lane Kiffin, from a coaching standpoint?
I think too. I think we'll be able to tell a lot more about this kind of like next season because one, Ole Miss's biggest task right now is keeping this team together. Because I know Trinidad is trying to get his 6th year, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But it's not like a for sure fact that he stays at Ole Miss, right? I mean, I'm assuming.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of people that think if he gets a 6 year, he's gonna
Go somewhere else. Yeah, so it's like maybe that's something that right now to me, Ole Miss is playing with house money, where it's like as soon as they beat Georgia, everyone kind of expected them. Oh, they're gonna get to Georgia, they're gonna lose like they did in the regular season. It's gonna be they're not gonna get blown out. They're gonna play a competitive game, and then this is a good season though. Like we lost our head coach, a bunch of stuff happened. Everything looks now they beat Georgia, and now they're in the semifinals of the national championship. So anything that happens from here on out. Everyone that is a part of this Ole Miss team, everyone's gonna go, yeah, that was awesome, great job. We'll see you again next fall. And what the task is next fall is to get a team that is close to what we have right now. Because if you start letting people walk and transfer and go other places, and like we said, losing assistants and things like that, that's kind of where maybe the Lane Kiffin, him leaving was more obvious to me because for me, it was, yes, this Ole Miss team this season is really good. But this LSU could be a team that is good for the next 5-10 years, potentially. I mean, to me, it's like he's almost trying to create his own Saban legacy, right? He's going to go to one of the powerhouse schools in the SEC, and he's going to recruit, like you said, talent acquisition. He does very well with that. And he's going to build a dynasty, basically, is what I would assume the goal is. So, yeah, I would say that maybe the success of this Ole Miss team right now is not as important as their future success, which is where I think why he left, and what will tell us more about if he made the right decision or not. Because right now, dude, they're Cinderella, baby. They're gonna keep on dancing.
No, they are. Yeah, I mean, they are one of those teams where it's like no one expected us to get past Georgia. Look at us now. We don't have a head coach. Everybody's kind of looking at us like, what? And look at them; they're still.
And I think they have the most beatable matchup.
Yeah,
you give me outside. Like, if you would rather give me Oregon or Miami, give me Miami. Nothing against Oregon. I think Oregon's more complete. Miami, we've talked about, they've taken their dumb losses, right? This is the team we've seen take their foot off the gas. And, we could probably look here at what's next for these teams to kind of do a little early preview, right? Like, the thing that really helps here with Ole Miss is that you can run into a Miami. If they're just not playing right well, you have a quarterback that can scramble and move out with some of that pressure. That's now with this game out of the way, the Georgia game out of the way, I should say. It feels like anything is possible for Ole Miss. Obviously, all four of these teams, 4 Saban assistants, by the way. We're not talking about the SEC being dead. It just moved. But that's, just got to catch a couple flights. But, like, if you were to tell me, hey, Ole Miss, who would you want to play in the second round? In this round, if you get here, they'd probably tell you Miami if you give them the 3 other options, right, of Indiana, Oregon. Are, I think, the 2 most complete teams in total. Because, again, I still have questions about Miami's offense. What happens when Malachi Toney isn't getting the ball? What happens if you start stuffing the run a little bit with Fletcher? He's a really good running back. That offensive line's good. You slow it down a little bit, and you just double up Malachi Toney. Can you really trust Carson Beck to win you a football game? So, like, that's what I think is so fascinating about this Final Four. You get a good rematch in the top half of the bracket of Oregon, Indiana. If there's any team that's going to – I want to be in the locker room. And I don't really like being in locker rooms that often. At times it can be really tacky, annoying. Dan Lanning's going to put on a speech that could win an Emmy on its own. Mm-hmm. You know he is. And he's not going to need anything from Kurt. Kurt Cennetti's one of the best coaches at knowing when to be quiet, right? Before they first played in Eugene, Kurt Cinnetti, this is a great football team. Listen to that. No bulletin board material. You know Oregon's going to find some. Dan Lanning's going to put up a speech for generations. Like, I want the Hoosiers to win in some way. I kind of want Oregon to win just to see, like, the pregame speech, because they'll probably post it if they win, like on social media, and be like, look at this hype video, and it's be Dan Lanning saying the most outlandish stuff to get you excited. And that's going to happen. And then you turn around in the game that has a lot of question marks, also a 6-10 matchup. with two teams that have so many question marks. And I don't know what to make of Ole Miss still. Like, again, you're having this is going to be Pete Golding's third game as a head football coach. And he's going up against a guy, Mario Cristobal, that is starting to gain my trust back, but at the same time has done their fair share of stupidity, right? Like, don't ask him about that Georgia Tech game a couple years ago, right? Like, there's a level of dumb that could happen. It really does feel like the only inevitable in some degree is probably Indiana. That's so weird to say, and that doesn't feel that inevitable. Like, I'm not betting the house on that, right? And that's kind of the fun of this year, is that it's been a weirdly chaotic year. And this 4-team bracket really shows you have a team without a head coach that left for an arch rival, which some we don't talk about enough. An arch rival program in LSU is now in the Final Four. Miami, which was ranked at like 19 and then clawed back, somehow jumped a team that didn't play. That was the committee's own. Fantastic. Indiana football, enough said. And then Oregon, a team that's like new money, that's supposed to be good, has finally gotten over the first round hump, runs into the team they lost to at their home stadium. Script writer's doing a good job this year, gotta say.
No, it's been great. Miami is the first double-digit seed to win a playoff game first, and now to continue on.
I think too, it like this Indiana Oregon game is so interesting to me because as huge NFL fans, you guys Bears fans, I'm an Eagles fan. We know how hard it is to beat teams multiple times in a season. And for Indiana to have to play Oregon again, it is a tough challenge to beat the same team twice.
Ask Georgia.
Yeah. Ask Georgia, exactly. So I'm really interested in that game. I am super excited for these games. It's like Ole Miss. It's like I love Indiana. I'm like, Indiana has the perfect story, but Ole Miss's story is so good that I'm almost cheering for them over Indiana. And then Indiana, because like the last round, it was like so easy to cheer against Alabama and so easy to cheer against Georgia and so easy to cheer against Ohio State. It's like they're like the antagonists and we were cheering for the protagonists. But now it's just a bunch of guys that we all like, and it's like now you have to watch them fight. So
Superman's fighting Batman.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you guys are supposed to be kissing, not fighting.
No, I mean it is, but I think honestly though, if I would have told everybody in October that the Final Four teams would be
Oregon,
how
wrong
Indiana,
were we, huh?
Ole Miss, and Miami. It just shows you in this 12-team playoff, like literally anything can happen. You have to get hot at the right time. For everybody other than Indiana, you don't want to buy, and you get on this run. I mean, I don't know. It's just the whole thing has just been nuts. It's been fun. It's going to be great because I'm telling you that Oregon Indiana game is going to be fantastic.
But don't worry, we need 16.
Yeah, I mean that's the
all
thing.
This fun has been really great. No, we're just making it more convoluted because we need
more money. More money.
Oh my God,
more money. All right, here we go. Get some comments before we go to Trevor with the Trev bomb on. Good man, love the work. Look at this guy.
What does that mean?
I think you talking about the Lane Kiffin stuff.
Oh.
And he says, "Sorry, boys, I know a little off topic, but Riley L gonna be in the rafters one day.
Oh.
I saw plenty enough today. Ain't nothing wrong with." Give it a
homie smooth. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Can't recognize the game.
Remember then they were high on Penn State. I think everybody was high on Penn State. Other than Jonathan, he claims this guy, he didn't write his stuff down in papers. He's also the guy that grew up a Raiders fan, now claiming to be a Lions fan the last 4 years. So we'll see how that goes. Now moving on to the NFL. And so we'll make our picks Wednesday. Me and Trevor will be back Wednesday on the show. So we'll make the picks for that Wednesday. And I know Luke said something about Indiana in the transfer portal. We'll go over the transfer portal on Wednesday as well. There's just a lot. I think by that time we'll probably know more as just today. It feels like with the transfer portal, as soon as these guys go on visits to like the first school, they're going to that. And if they get past to the second school, then they're there. So we'll talk about that Wednesday and make our picks for the playoffs. Before we start, Luke says Burrow pulled a Favre.
I saw that. I was curious about that too. It looked a little Favre-y.
Yeah, so I mean,
Strahan. Last time we had one of those moments. Oh my Lord!
So what we have here is Myles Garrett finally broke the single-season sack record. 23 total sacks. He had like 22 the last month. Took him a while. He beat the edge, beat the left tackle around the edge. He had Joe Burrow in his arms as he was falling at the same time, I would say. And he ends up getting 23, ends up getting carried off the field, passes the record from 22.5, which is Michael Strahan and TJ Watt. Both had that record tied. I will say the thing that does suck for Myles Garrett is it's going to be brought up someday that he did it in 17 games. Yeah. And the other two did it in 16 games.
Well, when we go to 18 and someone beats him there, and then we're going to back in my day, we only had 17 football games, Okay.
It is just
flat circle.
23 sacks in a season is crazy. This guy is – Michael Strahan's talking about he could maybe break the all-time sack record. He was like that high on him. Myles Garrett's a great player. It's just, to me, and it's his doing just as much as the Browns, that he's not on a winner. But for him to have 23 in a season, finally break it after – because could you imagine if he didn't break it, having like 22 for a month?
Well, with the way they were like, okay, first of all, I remember I watched that Aaron Rodgers game. That man, I've never seen that man throw the ball faster in my life. That's the most sack quarterback I think of all time, Aaron Rodgers. Not even me being like facetious. And he was like, "This ain't happening to me." That's its own level of crazy. But yeah, if he would have stuck there for a month, it would have just been excruciating. That also could have led to the Browns winning like 3 more games next year, just out of pure spite and fury. So maybe Joe Burrow did one for the league there. Just be like, you know what, get the record this year. You guys are out of the playoffs. It means nothing. The only thing it'll mean for Joe Burrow is he's hit that highlight we played for a really long time.
That'll be a trivia question. Who did he get the 23rd sack on?
Yeah,
no.
Joe Shiesty will now be on Jeopardy in like 4 years. So congratulations to him for that. I do have the hot take that, one, I like Kevin Stefanski as head coach. He's probably going to get fired, which sucks in my own world, which we also will have that content most likely on Wednesday, it'll be Black Monday in the NFL. So you're going to have some NFL churn and burn, baby. But this is probably this man alone has probably kept Kevin Stefanski in a job for like 2+ years. And that's not even me saying anything negative about Kevin Stefanski. You have this generational player. Every once in a while, you just have to sit back and appreciate it, right? It's similar like Aaron Darnold. That's how I think of it. It's just like, just so elite, so special. And yeah, he took his money. He got his bread. I understand it. You got to do what you got to do. Has it really inhibited the Browns from being this good or this bad? No. I'm not going to sit here and be like, man, Myles Garrett has screwed this team out of winning football games. That's impossible for me to think. But when we think about this elite defense, this is reason A, right? Look, it's really easy when you have so many quarterback pressures every game to get picks, to get deflections, and everything else in between. And the Browns don't find ways to win. They find ways to keep games close, and that's because of that man and that sack record. So cool to watch history, and you don't get that every day.
Well, and this goes into our next slide, Caleb. If you'd like to hit the next slide, it's okay, I can wait. But if you'd like to hit the next,
no, it's fine. I'm just trying to find the playoff match.
No, it's good. No, it's fine. I would like to say before we get started into this, the Jets officially go entire season without recording an interception in the NFL since 1933. First team in the NFL since 1933. That is nuts, actually. They did not get one interception all year.
I don't even care about their defense. Brady Cook was so bad that he's going to be a battle hawk, and that's really sad personally because I just needed him to be good enough to be a backup QB to keep up Mizzou's backup QBU going. We started with Gabbert, Chase Daniels, Drew Lock, and I needed Brady Cook. Backup QBU. Who knows? We're getting Austin Simmons in the portal, so maybe he's going to slowly turn into a backup quarterback. But yeah, the Jets are probably going to cut Brady Cook. Yeah. Sad. But no, this is always a disgusting week of football. Can we just be adults here in this room? I'm glad we have it. I know in like June, I'm going to be like, oh man, I miss this.
Yeah.
This week's always disgusting and terrible and nasty, no matter how you sell it to me. Bad week for the survivor pool people who do that. This is always a week where something
like nobody played.
Well, yeah, because all the playoff seeds are locked up. Shout out to Carolina. I think that's a big takeaway from this early slate. We are starting to get more playoff seeds as these rounds come in, but one of the first dominoes to fall was Tampa Bay winning this game. That was a disgusting football game. Very indicative of the NFC South.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
like
Weather,
bad,
football.
nasty. It made no sense.
It was the most NFC South game that's ever been played.
It really matched the vibes of the whole season there. I also didn't realize with this win that the Falcons are somehow also 8-9. Weren't they like 3-11?
They were. No, they've gone on a little run here.
When did that happen? That was just weird. No, this is with so many playoff seasons locked up. This got real weird, real quick. Was it Phillip Rivers on the sidelines? Was shouting out Riley Leonard, which I guess now is the future QB. Who knows? I have no clue. But yeah, weird week. It's so weird. The Raiders beat Kansas City.
Yeah, I was gonna. This is terrible, dude.
And they still have the number 1 overall pick. So the Raiders secure the first overall pick. I have the top 10. It is secured. It is placed. This is the top 10 right now in the draft.
Okay.
The Bengals have the 10th pick. The Chiefs have the 9th pick.
Wow.
The Saints have the 8th pick. They're all 6 and 11. So I don't know if they're going to coin flip for the order there, but all those teams are 6 and 11. As of right now, it's Bengals, Chiefs, Saints. Commanders, 7th.
That's scary.
Browns, 6th. Giants are the 5th. Titans are the 4th. Cardinals, 3rd. Jets, 2nd, and Raiders, 1. Now, I will say, I don't know if they'll have to do coin flips on this, but the Jets, Cardinals, and Titans are all 3 and 14 along with the Raiders, but I think the Raiders somehow end up with the number 1 pick. So I don't know if they still do coin flips or whatnot with tied records. I'm assuming they don't anymore. But yeah, so the top 5 is the Raiders, Jets, Cardinals, Titans, and Giants. And if I told you that, you probably wouldn't be shocked with those.
Yeah, I was saying I could have guessed that at the beginning of the season.
The same teams are always picking in the top 5. But I will say the next round is pretty interesting because you have the Commanders, the Chiefs, and the Bengals all sitting there with top 10 picks.
That's scary. That is such a scary little medium there. I worry both. Really, the two that scare the most are obviously Kansas City. Wherever they go, it feels like when's the last time the Chiefs seriously have not picked later than 25? Right?
I don't know.
It's been probably since they started making the playoff run. Like that's my guess.
Probably since they had the number 1 pick in like 2013.
Yeah. So like this is a team, and look at all the talent they brought in on the later halves of first rounds. And mind you, first round NFL pick, you could find a lot of talent wherever you are. I don't think that's really a hot take, right? But to kind of uncut some of these people and find the people they have to fit their schemes, their systems, all these years, to give them a top 10 pick scares me in its own right. And I think the Commanders is kind of – I hope the Bears and the Commanders never play again because the last 2 years when the Bears lost on the Hail Mary, their season just went straight down the toilet. This year, Jake Moody, current Commanders kicker, hits the game winner against the Commanders, and they just go to you know what. So I don't like how that's been like the season-defining game for both teams the last 2 years. That game's also always played in Washington. Boo. Yes. But
ridiculous.
Get Jayden Daniels' level of health. He's still a threat. Even when he wasn't 100%, he was good. I'm not out on that camp yet. But yeah, and the Bengals are just weird. I don't trust the Bengals with anything. So great, they have a high pick. I have no clue where they're going to go. They're going to get another wide receiver and wonder why the offensive line can't block.
Well, the other thing I would say about the Chiefs, too, is they could always trade back, get more capital. You know that. So the last time the Chiefs picked in the top 10 was 2017. They had the 10th pick, and they took Patrick Mahomes.
Yep. So that should scare people.
And then the last time before that was 2013 when they took Eric Fisher, number 1. But in the 3rd round, they ended up taking a tight end from Cincinnati,
Travis Kelce.
Which is the funniest outcome if his final game is a loss to the Raiders.
Oh, no.
Without Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback.
Yeah, in which I don't want to say I hope that was his last game, but I don't really know if I want another season of Travis Kelce. I think he's a great tight end, one of the best, obviously, to ever do it. It's really hard for these guys to find the right time. Now is the right time. Walk away, take all the accolades, take the moment. But we'll see here. But yeah, it's hard for me to grasp a lot of meaningful takeaways outside of maybe the Saturday games a little bit, right? Obviously, playoff game in the first one. And then Seattle's confusing. They're good. I don't want to say they're like bad confusing.
They're good, but you don't trust them is the question. That's the thing is, do you trust them?
And well, and like
the quarterback.
The thing is, but their defense is insane. I'm not going to take away I know the Bears defense has been bad. I think me and Caleb have been pretty honest about that. They just get takeaways. But to go from 38 what was it? I think they scored 42 to 3. That tells you something about this Seattle defense. They're legit, and they have the running attack. I'm not necessarily questioning if Sam Darnold's doing it again. I don't have a hot take on Sam Darnold, to be honest with you. He's just fine. But I'm just confused with them. But I know they're good, and I feel like they have the most pieces that are always consistent in my mind. That makes them such a hard out. Like Sam Darnold doesn't really poop the bed that often, but if he poops the bed, Charbonnet is wildly consistent. Kenneth Walker is consistent. Smith and Jigba is wildly consistent, right? Like you go down the list, you're like, yeah, they're all really good. I keep watching at Houston. I know we want to talk about the Colts to some degree. That Houston team is scary. And I think this is the perfect year. You want to talk about a year for teams to make runs. This feels like a team that could just defensively bow up. And usually, I know the Texans are great at being the wild card team that just stays in the wild card forever. They've done all this year without fantastic quarterback play. C.J. Stroud's been fine. They had Mills in for a couple weeks. They didn't lose when Mills was in. It's not like David Mills was like the second coming of Jesus. This was not the Ben DiNucci little run that was like, is Dak washed? Like, no one was saying that when C.J. Stroud was out. But C.J. Stroud's been fine. He's been good. He's not been elite. He's been just good enough to be there. But that defense is scary. But yeah, that's all I really could take away from this. We have most of the seeding. Obviously, Sunday Night Football with tons of consequences. Possibly the last game Aaron Rodgers plays. Please.
Yeah, so basically, so the Broncos beat the Chargers. So they locked up the number 1 seed in the AFC, which is the first time they had the number 1 seed in 10 years. In 2015, they ended up winning Super Bowl 50, so they get the bye. And then the NFC it's set. So the Seahawks are the number 1 seed, first round bye. Bears will play the Packers yet again in Chicago in Soldier Field. This one's for all the marbles. The Eagles will take on the 49ers at Philadelphia. And then the Rams will get a nice little revenge, potentially, against the Carolina Panthers.
Oh my God!
The impending Carolina Rico Dowdle clutch drive where Bryce Young's played terrible all game, and then Rico Dowdle rips a 40-yard run, and they're in a decent spot, and Tedro McMillan makes a great catch. It's just, I feel that one coming. That just feels disgusting enough because wouldn't it be poetic if the NFC South team that had an under 500 record and lost their last game of the year to the team that could have taken their playoff spot turns around and beats up on the Rams? Would it just be oddly weird? Doesn't it just feel like this year, I don't know, without Mahomes here, I don't know where to go. But, this is one of those years where it feels like that something like that could happen. And at times I think the Rams are bad. It's just nothing makes sense. Again, I thought the Bears were a 6-win team, and now I have to play now we get the peak anxiety bowl of the NFC North, which is the oldest rivalry known to man in the NFL, going up in the Windy City, where the Bears might not be playing in 5 years. Who knows? Shout out to South Bend Bears. Make it happen.
I'm on the New Buffalo Bears, Jerry.
No, I'm telling you, South Bend Bears right next to the South Bend Cubs. You're welcome.
That would be wild.
You're welcome.
It could happen. So the AFC is all the spots are set other than the Ravens Steelers. That is the winner of that wins the division, goes to the playoffs. So you have the Broncos as the 1 seed, the Patriots, the Jaguars, the Texans, the Chargers, and the Bills are all in. We're just depending on what happens in this last game, who plays where, what does what. I will say too, the Jaguars are. I think
they're doing what the Bears are doing. They're just doing it down south.
They have scored 40 points in I feel like the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, because they have, and this is not slight good or bad. It's the same vibes as Chicago. It's just in Jacksonville. And their offense has honestly been better than Chicago's overall. But it's the same idea. If you brought in an offensive mind in Liam Cohen, who's just been absolutely fantastic at dialing up plays. And we want to talk about just how crazy these things are, right? Baker Mayfield in the first half of this year, everyone's like, oh, is Liam Cohen this good? Was he really this much of a genius? Jaguars were doing good, not fantastic, nothing earth-bending. Baker Mayfield looks great. They get down the second half of the season when the Jaguars start really figuring out this offense. They start playing together as a team, and Baker and the folks down there in Tampa Bay start crumbling. And I'm not trying to say Baker's bad or good, but it's like one of the things that feels like more and more of a trend is you're letting geniuses leave the building. And they're not the only example. Look at Detroit. Detroit might have just won this weekend. They would take Ben Johnson back in a heartbeat. Some people in Detroit would take Ben Johnson as their head coach right now over Dan Campbell. And I don't think that's a hot take. And there are plenty of people who wish that Todd Bowles was not the head coach right now of the 49ers. They wish it was Liam Cohen. Even ask Ravens fans who are already sweating their what's off about McDaniel for the Seahawks. Right? Wasn't he the Ravens?
No, he was he was like an assistant, went to Michigan as their defense coordinator, then came back to the Ravens as their defensive coordinator, and then ended up going to the Seahawks.
Yeah.
The Jaguars in the last 5 weeks have averaged 36.4 points.
Oh my god!
In the NFL, they have done that. That is wild to me. So,
is there a world where they play Houston in the first round?
Who, the Jags?
Yeah.
Probably very possibly. Yeah, because they would have the 3 seed. The Jags could have
Styles make fights if that's the case. Oh my lord.
That would be wild. So it'd be the 6th seed. So Luke says, wild to think about. Week 14, the Falcons lost to the Jets 27-24. If this was reversed, the Falcons would have won the NFC South, and the Jets would have the number 1 pick.
Dominoes, baby. It's a tight league, and like even the bad teams can make weird things happen, right? I mean, look at the Saints. Even yes, they lost this game. The Saints won 6 football games this year.
Yeah, Tyler Shuck looked pretty good towards the end too.
And Tyler Shuck was a quarterback I had no faith in. He was mid all of college, and it's not like college always translates, but he had weird mechanics. Everything about him didn't make sense. He's been a new world for them, and he's pushed them a little bit, back into later picks, which I don't know if the Saints really love or not, but like this year has been so weird. And when we look at, and a lot of the establishment teams are not there. Obviously, Kansas City's not there this year. There's a chance you don't have a Baltimore or the Steelers. One of those two are missing this year. Yeah. And especially when I look at the AFC, I keep coming back to this. I keep coming back to Josh Allen. Because this is especially if the Ravens lose this week, or if Lamar wins, but he does not look like Lamar that we know this year. Obviously, with all those injuries, he's not running the same way. That's what's made him so dynamic. But if you're Lamarless or 50% Lamar Jackson plays for the Ravens in the playoffs, this is supposed to be the year one of those guys really breaks through. And Josh Allen's the one that's healthy. And if you run in now to this AFC that has some talent, but it's just very weird, like the Denver feels like frauds, but they keep winning.
Yeah.
Right? New England playing with house money. And I know it's New England. They have more of a storied tradition. Drake may look good last year, like all right. This year, he's a possible MVP candidate. You're watching growth right in front of your eyes. And then also they have all the legal problems, which tells me that the Patriots are back because it couldn't be that easy. I keep going back to what does this look like, because every year with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson especially, was if they could just get past Patrick Mahomes. He's not there. Chiefs aren't even sniffing, right? The Chiefs are looking at draft boards right now.
They have the 9th pick in the draft.
So this is supposed to be a year that one of those guys, and I really look at Josh because of those Lamar injuries, is supposed to take charge. This is the new chance, and they might get stonewalled. And that's going to make a lot of interesting conversations about those quarterback rooms. I don't know if it's like new era because these second-year quarterbacks are really making some movement. I don't want to go that far, but it is just wildly fascinating to me how this is going. Even though I still have no faith in the Broncos at 1. I don't get that team at all. I still don't. Just good defense and offense that figures it out, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we will see. Johnson says Baker's going through a lot right now. Luke says there are no Detroit fans who would rather have Johnson over DC. Campbell built this, not Johnson. Yeah, I mean, look.
I don't believe that.
The Bears losing today.
Yeah, zero, not a single fan.
There's probably a couple, but I mean, I would agree with Luke though. I mean, if you're a Lions guy, Dan Campbell fits the city, fits everything about it. He is like just the rise of like being bad and now being good and trying to figure it out. Him taking over I think
the playoffs and
I get it. Dan Campbell's vibes are there. I think if that's the point we're trying to make of like Dan Campbell has been such a good face, sure, but okay. Well, you rated the two coordinators he had, and then you suddenly have in this roster didn't turn over as much. I get it. They beat Chicago twice. I get it. They're in the NFC North, but like if you're going to have all this talent in the world and everything would go and everything was green the last 2-3 years, right? Offense scored whenever you want. Defense at times could figure it out. And it was the injury problem. This team wasn't as injured as years past. It has not been as successful. Maybe I'm being premature on that. But if you have anything similar to this next year, right, where the Bears and Lions are fighting back and forth and the Lions are losing those weird games, especially like when they lost to Minnesota and stuff like that. And those games, you're like, that's a team that they usually beat. They should be better than. I'm just real curious. Now, if they reload, then I look like an idiot. That's why you do talk shows for a living. But with especially how that offense kind of churned out quick and does not look the same, even with all the weapons in America. Now, the 2-star running backs, one of the best wide receivers, and a quarterback that's figured it out last couple of years. They're out of the playoffs now. I'm just, and if this goes out, if this trend stays, if Chicago stays relevant, that's a really big if. I think that's going to be a talk that happens more and more. Maybe I'm really on that bandwagon. Maybe I'm just wrong, but I think that.
Well, I think the biggest thing though is with Detroit, especially with the Lions. It's like the fact that Dan Campbell wants to be there and it's like faith of like I want to be here. I want to be the coach of the Lions. I buy into Detroit. The Lions have those guys where they think they have them and then they retire early. So I think to have him like that is something you want. And look, Dan Campbell is at the point in Detroit where it's like you make the playoffs, good. They're fine with that. You live off that. You're good. They went 9-8 this year. So, but it will be interesting though, to Jerry's point of like, will it? But I don't foresee it ever being that way. Luke says they had the number one scoring offense in the league again this season. It was the O-line play that was their downfall, while the Bears went from the bottom 3 O-line to the top 3 O-line. Yeah, I mean, look, Joe Thuney, I said it. All that guy does is win. Ragnar retiring after the draft and free agency is what hurt them. I think the other thing, too, is just the Lions. It's one of those things where I think every year we have like 5 or 6 new teams make the playoffs. You kind of like have this churn. I think that's just kind of what happened with the Lions. Maybe if you don't have Green Bay tied, the Lions are in and the Packers aren't. You have that. So it's just one of those years for the Lions where the Bears, with a new coach, kind of figured some things out. Next year could be completely different. But the Lions still have talent. They proved that today against the Bears. Like they still have talent. They're just not in the playoffs. It just happened. The NFC playoffs was really tough. Last year's 3 NFC North teams made it in. This year, 3 NFC West teams make it in. So it's just the way it happens.
Dude, the NFC West is a beast this year. And
it is. And
with the Cardinals that suck are in there.
Yeah, so the Cardinals are terrible. And for the 49ers, it's like injuries all over the place, but they still continue to win games. They didn't beat Seahawks, but I don't know. I think to me, the sneaky team, it's tough. In the AFC, it's like there's a bunch of teams I think are good, but I don't trust. And it goes back to Jerry's point of like, I do trust Josh Allen, but do I trust the rest of the Bills? No, but I trust Josh Allen. And on the NFC side, it's like, I want to say the Rams, but the Rams just sometimes on the road, they're awful.
The NFC is just a bloodbath. I think this year, and I'm not saying every year, because the last couple of years, it's been the AFC that's really been that quarterback heavy bloodbath of back and forth. This year really feels like in the NFC, it's just, maybe it's not bloodbath. It's just straight up rock fights, right? Like no matter what matchup you gave, right? And also just how much standings flipped, right? Where teams are going from like 2nd to 6th. I remember when the Bears were still making the playoff run and they lost like to Green Bay, and it's like, oh yeah, they might be out of the playoffs right now, and it was like 9-4. It's like,
well, the Rams like 3 weeks ago were the number 1 seed.
Yeah. And so, like, it is such a back and forth this year in the NFC. The AFC has a lot of unproven, I think, talent, and prove it this year. Again, the team I just keep looking at, I think the sleeper team in the AFC is easy. I keep going back to Houston. That's just a fantastic defense. If CJ Stroud continues to just be good, they can figure it out. They just beat up teams like that. And that thing is, even if they lose, whoever beats them might come out of that game with too many bruises. And I find that fascinating. The NFC just feels like I cannot tell you where the NFC is going to go, but whoever comes out of the NFC feels like an early favorite if they're not too banged up. I can also see that world where it's just like, let's say it's Seattle. where Seattle has to run through maybe Chicago at some point, which is, even defensively terrible. They're going to stretch out your defense. That's what they've done here for the most part of this year. Or you run into a Green Bay team that is great defensively, even without their best defensive player. Or you run up against the 49ers again. That game was annoying, right? The only team that kind of feels like the Mickey Mouse is the Panthers. And the Panthers have won games that they have not. Everyone's like, they shouldn't win that game. Look at Green Bay, right? Like, not to make everything about the Packers, but like they can just screw around and find out and beat a Rams team. Oh, wait.
Don't forget about them Eagles, Jerry.
Don't worry. I'll let Trevor do all that talking, right?
Well, and that's what I was going to say. It's like, so the games that just happened, like Caleb Williams and all those guys are in for the Bears. They're like actually trying to win this game. And I turn on the Eagles game, and it's like Tanner McKee. You have no receivers out there. So I'm like, I'm getting frustrated. But then you look at who we have to play. It's like, okay, yeah, say we get the 2 seed. Now we just have to play the Packers, which is a really, really good team. It's like, okay, we got the 3 seed. Now we have to play the 49ers, who have looked pretty good recently. So it's the NFC is just terrible. It's going to be terrifying to watch. I feel really bad for you guys because I know you guys hate the Packers. And if that's how it's going to be disaster. Honestly, like the 49ers, it's like I don't have any personal animosity towards them. So it's like, it is what it is. But if it was like the Cowboys, and we had to play them, I'd be like, this is going to be the worst day of my life.
No, it could end up being awful because, not only did we come back to beat them in, historic fashion, but our quarterback was also seen around town with the cheese grater hat on the next day. So Jordan Love probably does end up coming back to play, and he figured out he's going to be a dad, so he has father strength now.
Yeah, it's a different type of strength, bro. I've been opening up jars left and right, man.
So it's it's one of those games. But for most teams in the NFC, you'd say I want to play the Packers. Like they look like they have a lot of problems, a lot of issues. They lost today to the Vikings. But for the Bears, it's like, yeah, great. We have to play the Packers.
Yeah, logically playing the Packers, either the Eagles or the Bears, makes the most sense, right? This is a team that's most banged up, is missing key pieces, right? This is Micah Parsonless, Green Bay. True, yeah. Their defense is missing some of those key pieces. You want to talk about anxiety, man. And also, even if the Bears win, that's going to – the stuff that might happen in the state of Wisconsin would be absolutely terrifying if the Bears are to pull out that game. And that's a big if, right?
Yeah.
It does feel like a massive monkey would come off the back of the Bears. But also, my question is, you got emotionally fired up for that game. And the Bears' last 2 weeks have been good, but that same fire like of the moment has not been there. Even in this game, right? A Detroit game that has all the reason to do this, even if it's just for the coach we all like now, we do his little slogan at the end of the game, this is his former team. That Bears team didn't play like that was the case, right?
Not at all.
So
the Lions did, but the Bears didn't.
Yeah, in return, and let's say it's a flip-flop. Oh, yeah, the Bears let up 42 points to San Francisco. Good thing you get to play them again, right? That's a bloodbath. And the AFC still has to be decided, obviously. I'm actually watching the pregame here with Mike Tirico and the friends out there and about. So Chris Collinsworth is probably still finding a way to talk about Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes.
There's a guy that just knows how to win games. Don't know which quarterback he's talking about, but it's probably Patrick still. But no, of course.
Dude, he's lucky he's good at football. Imagine your freaking first name's Patrick. That's a rough name to walk around with, dude.
Patty. Call him Old Patty.
Patty. No, that's a good name. I like
Old
that.
Patty.
I mean, I feel like there's been worse ones. What about Mitchell?
No, Patrick is terrible, dude. Patrick, the only thing I think of is Patrick the Starfish, brother. And that's the only thing I can think of. It's rough, dude. It's rough to walk around like that.
Patrick. I mean, look, everything goes against him. His Patrick is his voice.
Patrick sounds like Kermit.
Yeah.
Everything
is against him, but he can chuck a football 75 yards and win.
So it doesn't even matter. His name could be I would say Leslie, but like for a man.
Yeah.
I think how you found what you think is a worse name than Patrick, and you're like, well, at least he's not named Leslie.
Just Caleb's mom.
No, that's I think
I meant
my
for
mom,
a man.
My mom is different though because she spells it differently than everybody else.
Well, she's also a woman.
It's Lesley. That's how you spell Leslie.
She's
Not-
a woman,
yes,
so she's
L-E-I.
allowed to be named Leslie.
No,
The
it's right.
man-
It's a
yeah,
fact.
a man named Leslie's rough. Also, a man named Madison is rough.
Madison.
He's got to think about this. That's the thing.
What are other? We can do this real quick. What are
Hold on. Oh, I got you.
HB
multi-gender?
died to give Trevor
gender
football
names.
to give Trevor names that he thinks is bad.
I got you.
Bad names for men that are also.
I will say, you know who's figured out good names for men, especially for football? Matt Campbell.
Yeah.
His last two quarterbacks, Brock Purdy, Rocco Beck.
And Rocco's going with him to Penn State.
Exactly, dude. I'm just telling you, Matt Campbell he finds 3 stars. That's fine. He finds great football names. Like I've been a Brock Purdy fan for that.
Avery.
I know an Avery. That's a dude. Not as bad as you would think.
Rough,
Avery
dude.
Johnson. It's not
No.
bad.
Oh, that's not terrible.
C.
But I feel like Parker for a girl is rough.
I feel like that goes both ways.
Yeah, it's not as bad.
I think of Peter Parker. When
Taylor, I would say Taylor for a dude's a little rough.
Yeah, we know a Taylor for a dude.
We do know a Taylor. I know multiple Taylors.
Multiple Taylors for dudes, actually. Yes.
Yeah, I love both of them, but it's rough.
Have you talked about to your Taylors about their name choice? Has this ever come up conversation?
No, not really. I
No,
don't really
because
think
when I
about it.
talk to them, I don't think about it that much.
No, I don't.
Now that
So
we're
it
kind
can't
of-
be that bad of a name.
No, but now that I'm starting to get into the thing, I'm getting red pilled right now.
Are there any other names?
There are. I mean, I think like Madison and Leslie is rough, dude. That's rough.
Leslie is
for a
bad
name.
because that is like when I think of Leslie, of course.
I think it's because it's your mom. I think if I
think
didn't know your mom and I knew
no,
one,
still Leslie's still that's a
it's
weird thing.
rough, dude. That's rough. Tracy for a dude is rough.
Unless you're Tracy Morgan.
Unless
Yeah,
you're
Tracy Morgan, I think, is going to single-handedly save Tracy.
Yeah, that's true.
The name legacy game is, dude. We're piling up off-season content. Right? We're thinking about the coaching carousel. It's just like name tiers. This podcast that offers all.
Yeah,
That's what we do. We do what other people want. You know.
yeah. That was just a glimpse of the Wednesday show. Jerry.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
We would have taken 45 minutes on that if it was.
I would have had ChatGPT out here, and we would have.
Yeah, so you got to poison my drinking water so you can figure out bad boy names. That's great. I love that.
So we will be back Wednesday, me and Trevor. That's when we'll go over the transfer portal in college football. We'll have the playoff bracket with dates and times set for the NFL. We'll make our picks for the Final Four in college football, and whatever else comes about. NFL coaching changes most likely. It looks like the Colts are going to keep both their GM and their coach. They look like they're going to have a press conference tomorrow discussing that. So that's one, and the ever-evolving changes with it. And I would say this other thing with the NFL coaches is like who's going to get hired because this does not feel like a great.
I
year
heard
for
Matt
defense.
Nagy is like leading,
Yeah.
which Jerry, you brought up a flat circle earlier. Matt Nagy being at the
You
top.
guys know
of
the
flat
meme
circle
of like the
earlier.
army, like the veteran, you're just staring into nothing.
Yeah.
That is exactly what
Matt Nagy
your
and
Matt
Mike
Nagy
McCarthy.
potential head coach.
Matt Nagy and Mike McCarthy are like
Yeah.
the two leading candidates.
It's like
for head
2013
coach.
again or whatever.
This
Jim
is
Treffelman, head coach of the New York Jets.
So that's the other thing is like who is going to get these jobs?
John Fox, what are you doing? You like Las Vegas?
So yeah, it is going to be very, very interesting. As we now move into the playoffs in the NFL. Of course, the game tonight setting the last playoff spot. Ravens Steelers probably has already kicked off. With that being said, me and Trevor will be back Wednesday with transfer portal playoffs in both college and NFL, coach firings, and maybe what the movement is or what the sources are saying with some of these coaches. I love that. My sources, what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
We'll have that, and as always, thanks for watching.
Peace.